رسول الله رسول الله
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Safaa Zarzour. I'm the Secretary General of the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA. It gives me great pleasure to be a part of this wonderful event, celebrating mercy to mankind, celebrating the Prophet ﷺ, who has taught us so much on every level of our existence as human beings. And this year, we're in particular celebrating his role as a husband, a family man. And when I heard about the topic, it right away brought to my mind a story that I cherish about the Prophet ﷺ that teaches us so many lessons on so many levels. And it is the story of him proposing to his wife Umm Salama. Umm Salama was a young believer who believed in the Prophet ﷺ and became one of his followers along with her husband when she was a young woman, a newlywed, who just had a little baby. And Umm Salama, when the Prophet ﷺ immigrated to Medina, wanted to immigrate with her husband, her child, and on the journey her family stopped her. In fact, the family of her husband stopped her and stopped him. Her husband continued the journey. She had to fight for her child with his father's family, who took the child out of her hand forcibly, causing him to have a dislocated shoulder for the rest of his life. Then she had to immigrate on her own, completely in the desert. Such was her faithfulness, such was her commitment to Islam. She, in Medina, was one of the most active Muslims along with her husband and her son, all of whom took their rightful place in Islamic history. And when her husband Abu Salama died in one of the battles serving the cause of Allah, Umm Salama was left with her children on her own, much older. She was so distraught. She was grieving so much for the husband who has been not only a husband, but a fellow believer, a friend of a long journey into this new faith. And so her grief was such that when the Prophet ﷺ saw her, saw how much she is distraught, he told her, Umm Salama, let me teach you a prayer that you should say. Say, "Oh Allah, help me with my calamity, with what have befallen me, and give me better than what you took from me." And instinctively, Umm Salama turned to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "And who is better than Abu Salama?" The Prophet ﷺ calmly, quietly smiled in her face and walked away. A week or so later, the Prophet ﷺ comes to Umm Salama and says, "Umm Salama, will you marry me?" Imagine the shock on her face. Imagine the surprise. Imagine the lessons she is learning from the Prophet ﷺ. When he told her, "Pray to Allah to give you better," he meant it. And when she repeated it with sincerity, what came to her was better than was taken from her, though what was taken from her was so great. The love of her life, her husband of so many years. And so Umm Salama responded to the Prophet ﷺ with what would surprise many of us. Imagine the Prophet you have believed in all your life, the man that have changed your life, the life of everything around you, is now asking for your hand in marriage. But also he taught her that any relationship should be based on trust, based on truthfulness, openness. So she, in her faithfulness, turned to him, though much surprised, and said, "But I am a woman with children." And the Prophet ﷺ very calmly said, "And I am a man with children as well." She said, "I'm an old woman." He said, "And I am an old man as well." She said, "I'm a jealous woman." He said, that I will pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take away your jealousy. And she said, I accept. That is a lesson that we learned there from the Prophet ﷺ of bringing Islam to our level as human beings, showing us that love and mercy, faithfulness, and trusting in Allah can never fail us as humans. And if we learn from that and apply it in our life, in our human relations, I think we'll be much better human beings. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what a mercy to mankind, and how proud I am to be a part of this occasion.